Guys, I have a serious problem I need to talk with you about today. I have a candy addiction. In fact, I don't just have one sweet tooth, I have a whole mouth lined with sweet teeth. Now, for a while I thought there wasn't anything I could do about it, that I was going to go through my whole life suffering like this. But, luckily, my friends at the Food Network have come through and they have the perfect solution to this problem. Get this, a giant candy bar cake. It looks just like a candy bar, but there's cake in there. Now, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make one today, and then you'll be on your way to satisfying all of your sweetest cravings. Now, the first thing you're going to need to continue your candy bar making adventures is a small loaf of pound cake like this. Now, you have two options. You can buy one from the store in the frozen section. These come completely pre-made, they're frozen, you thaw them, and voila, you've got pound cake. Or you can do what I did and make it from scratch yourself. Pound cake's a very surprisingly easy thing to put together and definitely worth the effort of making it homemade. This is a delicious pound cake recipe, one that I will make available for you on my website, of course. So, the first thing we have to do is slice this baby up. We want to make it a nice, even, pretty rectangle, just like a candy bar would be. So the first step, we need a bread knife or cake knife, and we're going to cut off this round top of the cake here. See how it's sort of like a dome? We want it nice and flat. So, just find where you want to start, and start sawing away. You know, try and keep it nice and even. Watch your fingers. Okay, it's got the top off. I'm just going to set this to the side, see how nice and smooth our surface is now. And as you can also see, these edges are just a little bit rounded, not too badly though. We're going to cut those down a little bit as well. Okay, off they go. Okay, we've got this baby cut down to nice, clean, rectangular edges. And there's one more step we have to do. We're going to slice it right down the middle so that we have a thinner, longer layer of cake. Last step. You're just going to saw right through. Don't hold back, you guys. Don't be afraid of the cake. You're the one with the knife. The cake should be afraid. Alright, we made it all the way through. Now we're just going to very carefully separate these two guys from each other. Be careful, cake is very fragile. There you go, we have two nice even layers. And now we've got to make the filling for it. The cake is representing the nougat. It's kind of going to be like a Snickers bar, but now we're going to add on chocolate frosting to be sort of like a mousse in the middle of this candy bar. Then we're going to top it with a dulce de leche peanut mixture. And finally, we'll coat it in a beautiful shell of chocolate and we will have ourselves a candy bar cake. One thing this cake's got that a regular candy bar doesn't is a chocolatey, fluffy, creamy frosting filling, and that's what we're going to make right now. It's got all your basic components of frosting: powdered sugar, butter, milk, and as a special treat, we have some melted milk chocolate that's going in here. So I've got about half of the powdered sugar already in the bowl, and we are going to add our milk chocolate right into there. Guys, it's really hard for me to not just drink this chocolate right now. I hope you appreciate the sacrifices I make for you. We have 1.5 sticks of butter softened going in. And we're going to start with about 2 tablespoons of milk, and we'll add more as necessary. Now we're going to give it a whirl with the beaters until it gets nice and fluffy. Alright, so now we're going to dump the rest of the powdered sugar right in there. And I'm also going to add a little bit of semi-sweet chocolate. This is going to help balance out the sweetness. Alright, let's blend it again. Now, because as a kid I used to love when my mom would let me lick one of the beaters, I'm going to sort of let you guys do the same. Look how fluffy and chocolatey this is now. I should probably take a little taste just to make sure it's good, right? Okay. If you insist. It's so smooth and creamy. Definitely have that chocolate flavor throwing through there. But it's not overwhelming. It's just enough. Now, I could say this is good and we can move on, but I think maybe we need a second opinion on the frosting. Reese, you want some frosting? Let's see what she thinks of it. How's that? Is that good? Judging by the fact that she just wolfed it down, I'd say that's a yes. So now we're going to put our frosting onto our candy bar cake, but before we do that, we want to cement these two sections of the cake together. So all you got to do is take a little dollop of the filling, and we are going to spread it in between. It's going to hold these guys together like delicious chocolate glue. And at this point, you want to put your cake on whatever tray or storage unit you're going to be using because you don't want to have to move it after this. Alright, sandwich these guys together. And now they're stuck for good. Alright, so I'm going to take and get all my filling onto the cake. I'm using a bowl scraper. These are super convenient for such purposes. Now you want to spread it out nice and evenly, but you're going to keep more of the frosting in the middle of the cake because gravity is going to tend to push it out more. And this way, by putting more in the middle, you'll compensate for that so that when it does push out, you'll actually have an even layer of frosting. So now we're going to take our trusty spatula. I'm going to spread this out nice. Now be gentle because, as I mentioned before, cake is a very fragile dessert and we don't want to rip up all the crumbs. And you want to keep this on the top. We're not frosting the sides like you usually would for a cake. As you can see, I've got my trusty bowl scraper, using it to smooth this out nice. I'd say this guy's looking good. We got a little bit more in the middle, which is what we want. Now what we've got to do is we're going to put it in the freezer so it can firm up before we start our other layers. I may or may not have a problem with frosting. I'm not ashamed. Alright, so I just got the candy cake out of the freezer. The frosting is nice and stiff. See, I can touch it and there's no imprints in it. So now we're going to make our caramel nut filling. Kind of like in a Snickers bar, right? So what I have here is 2 cups of dulce de leche. Now if you can't find dulce de leche, because not all stores carry it, you can make your own. Or you can just use caramel sauce, pretty much the same effect. And now we're going to add in 3/4 of a cup of salted roasted peanuts. Now, if you're thinking to yourself right now, crap, all I have is unsalted, don't freak out. You can just add maybe a ½ teaspoon of salt into this caramel mixture to balance it out. Because you do want that balance between the salty and the sweet, because the caramel is really sweet and so is the rest of the whole cake. And now we're ready to pour it on top of the cake. Just going to do it in like a nice even strip. And we want to try and keep it on the top. Of course, it's already going to the edges. Now, if some of it does start gooping over like mine is right now, it's not the end of the world. We can always clean it up. And I don't think you'll have this problem if you use dulce de leche. I couldn't find that, so I had to use the caramel, which like I said is a little bit runnier. Again, you're going to keep a little bit more in the middle to account for gravity. So you guys were learning science too today. Isn't that exciting? Not really. Alright, so we're going to get this in the freezer before we lose any more of the good stuff off the top. And then it will be time for our final step, a luscious coating of milk chocolate. You know, they say dogs aren't supposed to eat chocolate, but Reese actually loves candy. In fact, how she got her name has a lot to do with eating candy. We had a little bowl of miniature Reese's cups sitting on a table, and we started noticing they were just disappearing for no reason. And we found wrappers on the floor. We accused my father of stealing them. He swore he didn't take them, and we found out this little devil had been eating all of the chocolates. I don't know how she did so without getting sick, but clearly Reese loves Reese's cups. Okay, so our cake's got a lot of deliciousness going for it right now, but we still gotta drench it in chocolate. So I have some melted milk chocolate here. I'm gonna pour it over the top like a flood of lava, a river of chocolate flowing over it. So I want to make sure you get all the chocolate out of there, because I'm just gonna give it a little help. Spread it nice and smooth. I'm going to spread it over to the sides and let it sort of creep down the edges. So now that we've made a good mess with our chocolate and we've gotten it nice and smoothed out, we're going to stick this back into the freezer so it can cool and set just for 10 minutes, and then we're ready to serve. It is time for the moment you have all been waiting for. We're going to cut into this candy behemoth. What you see here, this giant lump of candy, it's not just candy, it's a giant candy cake. And when we slice into it, you're going to see all those magical layers that we put together. So, it's time for the big moment. I'm a little nervous. We have broken through. Check out all these beautiful layers. You can see the cake on the bottom, that chocolate mousse frosting on top, then the caramel and the nuts, and the chocolate shell that encompasses it all. It looks to die for, and I'm about to grab myself a fork and dig into this, but I thought I'd do you guys the honors of letting you see it before I went and destroyed it myself. Now, if you want this recipe, of course, it is on my site, and you can also find it in the latest Food Network magazine out this month. If you crave chocolate and candy and cake on a daily basis like I do, then this is the cake for you, or for anyone you know that also loves candy. Now, the next time you find your sweet tooth is begging you to be satisfied, ask yourself this: what would the smart cookie cook?